Welcome back. As we've been reporting, President Donald Trump has been indicted for his role in the January 6th Capitol insurrection. Hugo Lowe joins us now. He is a political investigations reporter for The Guardian and very sourced up in the Trump world. Hugo, it is great to see you. So obviously, we are already getting emails from the Trump campaign. We're getting statements from the former president. He's already fundraising off of this indictment. Have you spoken to any of your sources about what they think of this?
We've been checking in with people in Trump world in the hours leading up to this indictment. I think a lot of people in Trump's orbit expected it to come last week. And then when it didn't, they had to all kind of rile themselves back up again to turn on the outrage machine so that they could prepare their kind of statements and their kind of media to go out. But I think a lot of the feeling is split down two ways. One is this kind of resignation that Trump was going to be indicted, regardless of what the lawyers said, regardless of the arguments they made, and kind of the problem and the embarrassment of having another federal indictment. And then there's the other channel where the Trump advisors think, you know what, this is just another indictment. We've already had two before. And the fact that, Trump's poll numbers haven't gone down since he's been indicted in the other cases probably bodes well for them, at least going into the Republican convention.
Right. The former president himself has said that he embraces these indictments, and he certainly uses that as a talking point in his campaign. So how do you think that he might try to use this to his benefit, not only in terms of support with voters, but to raise more money?
I think the fundraising is definitely going to be the key thing here. I think even the Trump advisors are aware that there is kind of a Trump fatigue that has started to set in among his MAGA base. And they were certainly projecting that the amount of money they could raise post this indictment would be less than the money that they've been able to raise, for instance, off the New York AG case, which was the first indictment. And so it was kind of novel and very interesting and kind of sparked a lot of outrage among their supporters. And then also with the documents case, because that, again, was so kind of jarring for a lot of his supporters. They think this one and potentially the Fulton County indictment that might come in the weeks ahead, it might not have the same sort of bite. And so they're bracing for a fundraising boost, but maybe not quite as large as what they've had previously.
Hugo, I'm glad you brought up the Fulton County potential indictment there. What seems like might happen in the coming days or weeks with regard to that case?
It's going to come very fast. We've been tracking that case very closely, and our sources in the Fulton County DA's office suggest that when they are done issuing summons to witnesses, it will take about a couple of days to present their case to the regular grand jury. Once that grand jury returns an indictment, then basically it's going to be all about Trump. We expect Trump to be indicted. We expect other co-conspirators to be indicted in that case. And we previously reported that some of the charges include criminal solicitation to commit election fraud and possibly a racketeering charge to go with it. And when that happens, you'll see through the month of August, the indictment and then the arraignment, again, of the former president.
And Hugo, I have to let you go quickly, but I want to ask you one more thing, which is there any concern at all that Trump could face prison time?
I don't think so. But that's basically because I think a lot of the Trump advisors have convinced themselves that Trump is going to win, and that once he wins, that he can tell the Department of Justice to drop all the federal cases, and he can work out a deal with the state cases. But that's a big assumption, and if he doesn't win, then I think the prospect of prison time is very, very real for him.
Okay, Hugo Lowe, thank you so much. And now we have Finn Gomez. He is CBS News' political director. Finn, this is another indictment. This is unprecedented. But I wonder whether voters who will decide who the Republican nominee is going to be, whether they think that this is a big deal.
Speaking to voters in Iowa last weekend and speaking to them specifically about this and the potential for this outcome to happen, I think many of us believed it would, there wasn't the impact that I think some others may believe they would have. It really is. They've rallied around the president. You've seen that now, how even his own rivals, Ron DeSantis, just put out a statement essentially rallying around the president, circling the wagons around the former president, his chief rival. And if you look at the polls, the polling numbers, they say that this is clearly not impacting his trajectory. as he heads towards the nomination. There's still a ton of time left. There's just a ton of time in terms of it politically before we get to even to the Iowa caucuses, the first early voting contest. But I mean, if you look at the New York Times Siena College poll, it's 54-17 Trump to DeSantis, and everybody else is at 3 points. That just shows where the state of the race is, and that just shows the impact or lack thereof on Trump.
So from where I sit, I cover the White House,
Yeah.
the Biden campaign. By design, they are staying absolutely mum about this. They don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. But I wonder why the other potential GOP nominees are also staying so, shy about slamming the president for all of these charges he faces.
I asked a senior advisor to a rival campaign, to Donald Trump's campaign, and they told me that it just isn't worth the risk. They've tested it out themselves. They see that the reaction from your base voter in these early primary states is that they are supportive of the president, and they buy into the argument by the former president and his campaign that this is, quote, a witch hunt, that this is a politically motivated, and you hear that. You even hear from Mike Pence, who's listed in this indictment. It's surprising to some, but again, if you go and listen to these voters and talk to them directly, it just doesn't impact them.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Mike Pence, because in this indictment, he is all over it. And he seems to be a key witness who took extremely close notes about his interactions with President Trump. But how do you think the fact that he is also running for president against Trump might complicate the indictment as well as his own campaign?
It's unprecedented, Weege. I mean, it really is. I mean, he is listed here. He's writing Jack Smith in this report. It talks about his contemporaneous notes that he took in these discussions with the former president. And at one point, when he pushed back against then President Trump about trying to overturn the election, he essentially says Trump told Pence, "You're too honest." Like, can you imagine that? Like, and if they both end up on the debate stage in a couple weeks, on August 23rd in Wisconsin, like, how is that interaction going to be? I mean, this is such an unprecedented place that we are in modern American political history.
And that is a reality that could very much happen. So we will be watching.
Yeah.
Thank you, Finn.